We actually we have a quorum now. We have Chairman Carney, member Adam Freed, member Demetrius Carolina, and member Jonathan Golden. So I think we can actually get started, and the other members can just jump in when they join. So I'm going to run through a little script at the start. This is Omar Nazem. I'm the Water Board Treasurer. This is the June 19th, 2020 meeting of the New York City Water Board. This meeting is being recorded. An audio recording and a written transcript are being prepared. I would like to ask everyone to please maintain their phone on mute, just in order to limit the background noise. I would also ask, just as a reminder to members in the chair, when you speak during this meeting, please announce yourself and state your name clearly before your comments each time you speak, so that it's clear on the audio recording and on the written transcript. The last thing I would remind the public, this is a business meeting of the board. It's not an opportunity for public feedback. We had a public hearing earlier in the week on Monday where a number of members of the public provided both oral and written testimony. We run a number of forums like that throughout the year. We always welcome written comments. They can be sent to the board by email or by fax or by ground mail. You can find all that information on the board's website, which is nyc.gov/nycwaterboard. But this meeting today is not a forum for public feedback. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Al Rodriguez to kind of do the quorum call and get things going. Al, it's yours.
Yes. Chairman Carney?
Here.
Member Carolina Sr.? Member Fernandez Ketchum? Member Freed?
Here.
Member Golden?
Present.
Member Sue?
Here.
Good. Member Shaw? Okay. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Al. Just to make sure that I'm clear on who's on the phone. Demetrius, you're there. Adam, you're there. John, you're there. And Juke, you're on the phone as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
those are the people who responded.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Al. Want to welcome the members and staff and anyone who is joining us today to listen to these deliberations. I want to welcome you to this phone call. It was probably done with a great deal of stress by Omar Nazem and people who work with him. But it always turns out to be, these calls have turned out to be very, very substantive, and we get good participation from the members as well. Very pleased about that. This meeting is now known, I guess, as the rate adoption meeting. It's interesting that we call it that because we do a bunch of other things sometimes at this particular meeting. But it's glad to have all of you on the call. And aside, this meeting happens to have fallen this year on a day that is called Juneteenth, a contraction of June and 19th. No doubt all or most of you are aware, you know something about the significance of this date. But for the record, I thought I would put something in just to make the point, since the governor has made the decision the day before yesterday, to make this a holiday for state employees. And this is quick. As most of you or all of you know, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed on the 1st of January, was enacted on the 1st of January, 1863. On Juneteenth, 1865, a formal declaration was read aloud in a square in, of all places, Galveston, Texas, making it clear that enslaved people in that state had been free since the 1st of January, 1863. So this is nearly 2.5 years later. Texas, I think, was the last state to do this. I'm not absolutely certain, but I believe Texas was the last state to clearly emancipate its enslaved folk. What's significant about that is, for me at least, is that this proclamation in Texas resulted in freedom for 250,000 people, 250,000 folk, a fact which a lot of people don't know, but which ought to become public knowledge. People should talk about that. Juneteenth it's celebrated in 48 states, I think, state holidays. New York is not one of them yet, but we will be. It'll happen soon. That I just wanted to get that into the record, and to point out something else that I was grateful to get some help on. I called staff on Wednesday to find out whether we could validly hold a meeting today, since the governor had declared this a holiday for state employees. And I want to thank everybody who worked on the answers. But I know, Omar, you did, and Al, I know you did as well. Turns out the answer is yes, it's a state holiday. It's a holiday for state employees. It is not a city holiday. And so organizations like ours can validly conduct business today, which is a good thing. Let's see, where do I want to start? Let's review the bidding here. Let's get a sense of where we are. On the 22nd of May, DEP made its rate proposal to this board. It proposed that for several reasons, which were, I think in every case, connected to the public health crisis, that the board not increase the rates for the coming fiscal year. It was also proposed that we not assess for the coming fiscal year a 10% surcharge, which would have been assessed on certain multifamily properties. And so those were the two basic DEP proposals to this board. On the 15th of June, there was a public hearing, and testimony was taken. I think there were 5 members of the public, or 6 members of the public, who some of whom may be on this phone, who actually offered written testimony, and I think all but one of those organizations actually came and presented their testimony orally as well. I've read the testimony. I have made notes, very, very thoughtful comments from a lot of from several people, very interested people who are concerned about water quality, in many respects, but also concerned about affordable housing and the cost to those good folk who sometimes, in their views, are not heard as easily. I wasn't able to attend the hearing, even by phone, and I regret that. I apologize to the board and staff. But I've asked Adam Freed, who was there and who chaired the meeting, to summarize some of that material, and just give us a quick sense of what was said there and what the substantive aspect of the proposals, as briefly as you can, Adam. After Adam does all of that, after each of the proposals that he discusses, I'm going to ask the members who are on the phone to introduce themselves first, and then if you have comments or questions, you've all had a chance to read the testimony. So if you do have comments, then please make them then. That is after each of Adam's, after his review of each of the testimony offered. And with that, Adam, if you're ready, we can do it.
Great, thank you. And for the record, this is Adam Freed, and thank you, Chair, for asking for this. I'd also like to thank you for your comments regarding Juneteenth, and hope that next year it's also a city-recognized holiday as we continue to evolve in the recognition of the significance of the day and other issues surrounding it. So I wanted to touch on 5 comments that were received really substantively and throughout the testimony, that both the written and orally. I also want to thank the Water Board staff and DEP for responding in great detail to the board. We received a packet with detailed responses to each of the points that were raised in the testimony. I hope that those board members on the call have had a chance to review those, and all board members, as there was a lot of detail and information in the responses there. The first comment or substantive area was related to the rate appeals process and a number of requests that were made on how to make it more accessible, not only for residents and customers, but also for people who advocate on their behalf. I acknowledge that the Water Board and DEP has amended its policies to accept email submissions for rate disputes and ensure that those can be submitted in a timely manner. And also, as we've had challenges with notarization and signing kind of legal documents throughout COVID-19, amending that for e-verification for notarized documents and continuing to allow technology to catch up while also maintaining the integrity of the process. So a set of comments around that were received. Second area was a concern raised about the multiplier used to determine the SOAR rate. This is something that we as a board have discussed and something that we continue to look into as we modernize our customer billing system. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into NRDC's comments, but that was raised by a resident asking about how the SOAR rates applied to their bill. The third area, both NRDC and Swim Coalition talked about the expansion of affordability provisions within the water rates, particularly related to COVID-19 and the economic crisis that is facing not only New York City, but the rest of the country, talking about the need to avoid water shutoffs as hand washing is a health and safety issue, and certainly the first and foremost way of preventing the spread of coronavirus. I'd note that water shutoffs have not occurred in many years in New York City, that it is something that the Water Board and the water system is able to do for non-payment, but not something that they've practiced, particularly in direct response to the health and safety concerns that come from that throughout the past years, we've extended many of the provisions in the rate and also policies, including freezing rates this year, to take into account the affordability challenges that many New Yorkers and customers face within the water system. But we have the need to balance the financial conditions faced now with the avoidance of future shocks in the system. And I think that's something we continue to balance well, and thank DEP for focusing on that. The fourth area is something that is close to my heart, call for a separate stormwater charge. The NRDC and the Swim Coalition have come repeatedly asking for DEP to look into this. This is something that I want to make sure we echo in my comments. And as we continue to modernize the customer service system, as we think about GIS systems that can be put in place to look at a separate stormwater charge and one that can be tied to impervious area. There's a lot of good testimony around that from both of those members. I would urge the board to continue to look into that. I'd also ask DEP to come back, and they provided us some detail on that, but I would love to make sure we can get a briefing on that this summer in greater detail, and also ask for monthly updates, similar to what they've done in the past for OPEX and other large-scale projects. If we could get a proactive update on that, both around the modernization of the customer service and billing system, around the GIS and associated studies, and also around public engagement related to the stormwater charge, to make sure that we can stay actively engaged in that process. And then the fifth comment was around expansion of the multifamily water assistance program. University Neighborhood Housing Program has been a consistent voice through our rate-making process and testimony. They were seeking an expansion of that program. Wanted to note that we've significantly expanded affordability programs in the past few years, something that we continue to look into and find opportunities to do so in future years. Again, the need to balance the needs of the financial system and the fiscal integrity of the entire water system and our enormous fixed costs with the economic crisis we're facing is something that's been contemplated in this and resulted in the freezing of the rates for this year. So that was the tone and tenor of the comments that we received. I'll pause to see if other members have issues they'd like to raise or comments on that.
If you are going to comment, remember to introduce yourself for the record.
Demetrius, Carolina. I want to thank Chairman Carney. Certainly want to thank Alan for that great summarization of what took place, and certainly for DEP and for the members of our wonderful water board. Just wanted to echo that the sentiments of Alan in terms of sustainability, modernization, affordability of the New York City. It was just a great meeting, so thank you.
Sorry I couldn't be there, Demetrius. From the testimony that I've read, it's clear that people were being very, very thoughtful. These were not casual comments. These were comments that were designed to make it clear that there are improvements that we can undertake. Question is whether we can afford them, and when and if so, when we can afford them. But thank you for that comment. Are there others who would like to comment?
This is Jonathan Golden. I would like to also just express my personal thanks to DEP for all of its hard work in under less than optimal conditions, to say the least. Our team at DEP has done a great job under these tough circumstances, and I also wanted specifically to thank you, Chairman Carney, for your leadership, and Adam for the effective summary that you provided. I agree that we got incredibly thoughtful comments this year, and I also wanted to thank UNHP and NRDC and the American Utility Consultants and Mr. Marte and the Swim Coalition and the Rent Stabilization Association, all of whom obviously thought long and hard and carefully about the issues that they were raising, and I hope that they take heart in knowing that the board is considering those comments carefully, is getting input from staff on those issues, where we were able to make an immediate change, namely in connection with the email submission. That's been incorporated, and I applaud DEP for making that change on an expedited basis so that we could have that in the version we're going to vote on today. I also just want to say that I'm very happy that we have been able to, subject to the board's approval, maintain a 0% rate increase. I'm personally very supportive of the proposal, and I'm delighted that in these circumstances we don't have to impose a greater economic burden on our customers, especially given that we can do that in a way that is economically prudent, fiscally prudent, and part of that relates to how carefully managed the funds of the system are, and so the Water Authority is to be commended for that. With respect to the comments, I think, Adam, you did a great job summarizing them, so thank you. I too would ask that we continue to keep a few of the issues that were raised on the agenda and make sure that they are a subject of board focus and of ongoing staff attention. In particular, the affordability issues and the expansion of the Home Water Assistance Project and other efforts to help customers going through tough times, especially right now, and when it can especially be used, but in general, it's an important thing for us to consider. And then on a larger scale, the reconsideration of a more equitable rate structure that may be more progressive and that handles stormwater charges in a way that may be more fair. And I think there are a couple of other points to point to that we should be focusing on how to plan not only to be fiscally prudent in the current environment, but also make sure that we can try and avoid large increases as we go forward, and in that connection, try and ensure a measure of predictability with respect to the system's obligations to the city, so that we can set rates in a way that enables us to be confident that we can meet the obligations of the water system as we're required to do. I also very much appreciate the comments around Juneteenth, and I think that in future years, hopefully, as others noted, that we would not be conducting business on this day and would respect it as an important day. Obviously, it's not something that was on the as Chairman Carney noted was an issue in New York State, at least from a legal perspective, and so it certainly made sense for us to proceed this year. But it's something we should take into account for future years. So thank you.
Fingers crossed, John. Thank you for all of your comments. I don't disagree with anything. I don't think I disagree with anything anybody said. I would probably, I wasn't there to hear the testimony, but I've read the NRDC testimony. And it was not just thoughtful, it was in many respects, in every respect, I thought, accurate. We're facing a hugely difficult financial crunch in New York City. They certainly have an interest, as we all do on this board, in knowing how to budget reliably. They make the point in their testimony that, and they make it extremely well, that we had to deal this year with a request from the city, who's in dire financial circumstances, for some portion of the rental payment. It was half, I think. I don't know what we do as a board to address that. It makes planning very difficult. It is important to note that that decision not to request the rental payment was made in 2016, so we had several years of having the city stand down. I believe I have a sense of the financial crisis that the city is facing now, and I believe that it's appropriate to reach out where you can and make a decision, revert on a decision that they got back to us and they have made it clear that they needed the money, wanted the money, and they got it. I think going forward, we have an obligation to think hard and seriously about how we can know in advance whether or not this sort of thing may happen. The coronavirus, and I'm assuming that that's a lot of the reason for the city's decision, was completely unpredictable, and the city had given us relief, as I pointed out, in previous years. But I guess I'd like to have the board discuss at some point going forward during the summer, if we're going to meet during the summer, or if we're not going to meet during the summer, in the fall, how we might shore up our ability to rely on what the city's going to need and want to do. Not taking issue with the city's decision to do it this year, but because I understand it, or at least I think I do. But it would be great to have a discussion about how better we need more predictability, and it would be great if we could do that, get that. That said, thank you all very much for your comments. I am very grateful for them.
And Mr. Chair, before I move on, this is Adam Freed.
Yeah.
I would just ask, given I think the significance and importance of those issues, both the stormwater charge and ways of thinking about future rate changes and the rental payment, if we could schedule a meeting for July or August to make sure we can get those onto the agenda and begin the process of regular updates to the board on that, rather than waiting for the fall.
I don't disagree with that, Adam. If staff believes, people have summer plans. We don't normally meet in the summer, but it would be great if we could. These teleconference calls seem to work. We get great attendance. So if it's doable, Joe or Omar, you'll have to let us know. But why don't we just make the point that the board would like to do that, say in August?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, sorry. Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Joe Murin, Chief Financial Officer for Department of Environmental Protection. So yes, we hear the request, and we will work with, Omar and myself will work with the board to see what we could schedule for preferably August. I may say that we may want to even think perhaps like September. I think what we want to also be able to be cognizant of, particularly around the issue raised regarding the rental payment, as to what the respective financial conditions going to be for both the city as well as the system. I think we're still getting a lot of data in, and it's not yet clear that, we're probably, as we had a presentation from the budget director and the first deputy mayor the other night about the city's fiscal situation. And as you noted, Mr. Chair, it is very, very grim. And I think it's also equally very dire, for lack of a better word, at the state level as well. So that's going to have a lot of implications across the city. We're right now not as in, I think, bad a situation, but we don't know what's going to happen during the fall. So I think we want to be able to have a better sense of where collections and payments are going to be at, and also the consumption decline that we talked to when we had the board presentation. So I think August or September probably could work, and we could talk about, both the financial situation of the system as well as the status of the rate study. I think a status update on the billing system, which has also, I think we noted, has been slightly delayed due to the COVID situation. And then also about what that may mean if, there is any, prospect of, I don't, expect it, of the rental payment being requested for fiscal year 21 as well.
Okay. All right.
And this is Adam Freed again. Joe, appreciate the comments. And if it turns out we want to wait on the fiscal conversation for the fall for September, I just urge us to not have that be the delay on the stormwater charge and associated studies. And it seems like within 10 weeks in August, we should be able to schedule a time for that pending, everyone's availability. So just urge us to try to do that if we need to.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
No, go ahead, Joe. That was Arlene. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Arlene. No, and I know that Deputy Commissioner Angela Cotta is also on the call, and she's going to be the one leading her and her staff on the rate study. So I would defer to her in terms of, letting guide us in terms of what may be the most opportune. Right now, the study is, the contract has been submitted to the Controller's Office, and we're awaiting registration of that contract. So now, Arlene, I'll turn now to you.
That is Arlene Shaw. I just wanted to, everyone's kind of said all the things that I wanted to say, but I just want to reiterate, the chair's comments in and around just understanding the rental payment and what happens on a go forward. And then I just want to emphasize the things Adam is talking about as well. I think these are all important points that we need to make sure that we stay on top of and they don't get lost in the sauce.
It's Al. Thank you very much, Arlene. I absolutely agree with you. And I agree with you, Adam. If there are things that we can get done sooner rather than later, that is at the end of the summer rather than in September, then let's try to do it then. Let's have that telephone conference call if that's what it's going to be, because it's a lot easier to do it. Staff may have difficulty collecting all the information that you and Arlene and I and John and Demetrius might want to and GK might want to have. But the fact is that it is available information and can be collected in part at least, and it's the part. I don't want for staff to wait until it's collected all the information we've talked about on this call. If there is information that can be gathered sooner, then let's have that conference call. It won't be a long one, but I guess it has to be noticed and all the other things that this public organization has to do. So just give us a sense. You can give me a call or call the members and say we're able to get X, Y, and Z. Let's have the meeting in August. We can't get A, B, and C until late September, but we can get it all of it in separate parts. Let's do it that way. Okay,
understood, Mr. Chair. We'll follow through on that.
And let me say before I forget, and I will forget, it is extraordinary the degree to which you all have been able to maintain the information gathering for this board, submissions to this board, electronic submissions, paper submissions, FedEx packages, and the information is high quality information. I want to commend you all I should have done this at the end of the meeting, but I was afraid I'd forget, since we're having a discussion now that relates to the quality of the work. Thank you all very much for what you do for this board. It's been fabulous. It's just been fabulous. All right, let's get on with the agenda. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the 22 May meeting. They were in your packets, digital packets or paper packets. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any questions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, this is Adam Freed again.
Yes.
I'd just like to note and propose an amendment to the minutes. We actually had a fairly robust discussion during that meeting about kind of the reinstatement of the rental payment by the city, the need to balance the economic realities that we are facing today from COVID and the economic downturn with, out-year cost increases and trying to prevent double-digit rate increases, as well as a request for an update on DP's efforts for the separated stormwater charge rate, and just would like to see those discussion points reflected in the minutes.
It's fair. I don't know who does our minutes, but Adam has just made 3 points that were not included in the minutes with a lot of vigor. Can we get that done?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Al Rodriguez. We'll make sure the minutes are amended.
Okay.
To that effect.
Those are fairly substantive amendments, Al. Would you recommend then that we delay voting on the approval of the minutes as written?
Yes, sir. I would recommend that we amend the minutes and distribute them prior to the next meeting.
Terrific.
For approval at that point.
At the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. The next agenda item is the adoption of the board's minutes for fiscal 2021. Is anybody going to make a brief presentation on the budget? I mean, we've all seen it, we've all read it. Is the plan to include some discussion of it in this meeting from staff to the board?
No, this is Omar Naz. No, Alfonso. The numbers are substantially identical from what we had shown in the PowerPoint from May 22nd.
Right.
That May 22nd PowerPoint, just for the public, is available right now on the Water Board's website, as well as there being a more streamlined budget document on the website. If anyone wants to view either of those documents, it's again nyc.gov /nycwaterboard. Those are viewable for the public, but besides that, we have no comments since they're essentially the same numbers we showed back in May.
Okay. Are there any questions then for Omar or Joe? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the budget as presented?
Demetrius, Carolina, so moved.
Adam Freed, second.
Adam, thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Arlene Shaw, aye.
Aye, Adam Freed.
Thank you. I approve.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Could I make a suggestion that you conduct a roll call of each of the members that are present on the call?
And I will do that, Al, if you prefer. But my plan was to do what I just did, and then to ask whether there's any opposition. I would then say that the resolution was approved unanimously.
I think that works too.
Okay.
Just because we're on the phone, I think.
I know. But I think asking whether there's opposition actually solves the recordation.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any opposition to this resolution? Hearing none, the resolution passes unanimously. The last agenda item is the adoption of the board's rate schedule. Is there any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the rate schedule resolution?
This is Member Freed, so moved.
So moved.
Thank you,
Jonathan Golden, second.
John, thank you. Thank you both very much. All in favor, indicate with aye.
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 Okay, aye. Are there any opposed? Then the rate schedule is adopted unanimously. I want to thank you all very much. Is there any further business to come before this board at this teleconference meeting? There being none, may I have a motion, please, to adjourn?
So moved, Jonathan Golden.
Thanks, John. Second?
Demetrius, Carolina.
And as there is no opposition, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Be well.